Hello, my name is Elin and I'm proud of being asexual and aromantic.
Elin lives outside of Örebro in Sweden, but she felt that Gothenburg was calling for her to visit. So she took out a couple of vacation days and she came to visit. And during her stay, of course I couldn't resist asking her to talk about her identities with me and with you.
My name is Elin. I'm 39 years old, I'm a cis woman, and 2 years ago I started to identify as ace, which means that I'm an asexual and aromantic person. All my life I've been struggling with not understanding my own sexuality. I've always been having a strong feelings and a strong imagination, but I never experienced sexual or romantic attraction to any person. And this is something I didn't have a word for, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it, also because I was afraid that people would judge me or have prejudice about me. So this struggle has been on the inside of me. The thing is that after I turned 35 and was getting older, it started to become a very serious problem. Because being a grown-up, your sexuality and sex is not only something fun, it's about deeper things, like building your future. And it has to do with your expectation in life, how life is supposed to be, according to very strong normative thinking in society. And of course, because I didn't have anyone else to relate to, I was struggling with it on the inside, thinking that there must be something seriously wrong with me, but I couldn't understand why. And I felt broken and dysfunctional, because the thing is, it was not only about the sexuality. I was beginning to become more and more aware that I'm more than 35 years old and I've never been in love. And this, of course, is something that you learn that everyone is going to be experiencing in your life.
In the year of 2020, she found herself spending a lot of time on one of her biggest hobbies, reading.
I always loved queer culture in literature, in books and films and art. So of course I also always loved to read about LGBTQ representation in books. And I was following YouTubers talking about books from the USA, and they also added the letter A to the acronym. And I learned that the A stood for asexual. And I was thinking there was something about that word. And I was thinking that if only I could be asexual, that would be such a relief. But I thought to myself, there's no way that I could be asexual, because I thought it was about not feeling any libido at all or not thinking about sex at all. So I thought there's no way that I could be asexual. But I wanted to become a better ally, so I wanted to learn about every queer identity. And the local library didn't have a single book about asexuality. So I made a request for them to buy books. And they came to my house in December 2020. When I opened up those books and started to read, it was like opening a book about myself. And I had a very strong emotional experience. Because for the first time in my life, I could read about sexuality and attraction and relationship and intimacy with something that I could recognize in my life. And I realized I'm not alone feeling the way I do and having the experience that I have. And I learned that asexuality is like a spectrum with a lot of different ways to be ace. You can be ace and not have any libido at all, and you don't want to think about sex or anything to do with that. But you could also be asexual and have a strong feeling of libido. But the thing that is in common is that you're not attracted to any person.
She also learned something else about herself through these books.
There was also another queer identity that was mentioned in the books that is not the same thing as asexuality, and it's aromantic. I didn't have to think anything about that. I just read the word on the page and the definition, and I instantly knew that this is me. And it was also a very strong emotional thing to know that there is actually a word for someone like me, because I've been like this since I was very little, and I've always been the same, and I just didn't know that there were other people like me, and that is a valid orientation. And I also remember when I listened to the YouTuber ASEXUAL, who said in one of his videos that you are valid. That was also made me very emotional, because imagine that I don't have to change anything, I don't have to pressure myself into feeling things that I don't feel. I don't have to think that my experience is nothing. I could see that my perspective and my experiences, they are valid. They are also important. There's also one way to be human.
But finding words that she could identify with wasn't only relieving.
But it was also very scary and overwhelming, because I was 30 years old at the time, and I was sitting at home questioning my straightness. And I didn't know what to do. What is the next step?
Turns out the next step for Elin was finding a community.
And I found online forums, Avon, and a forum for aromantic people called Arocalypse, where there are information about asexuality and aromanticism, but you can also take part in the discussion forum. And a lot of people were telling their stories, and I realized that there are a lot of people that understand this in my age, in their late 30s or 40s or 50s or even older. And I was writing, oh my God, I read these books. I recognize myself. What should I do? Can I connect with anyone to talk to? But of course, in the asexual forums, aces from all the world, they just sent me pictures of cakes, because it's a way, I guess, to connect with each other and to validate. And their message to me was, if you feel this way, you are valid. And I did the same thing on the aromantic forum. I wrote this message. I read about this. I think I'm aromantic. What should I do? Who can I talk to? And there was a person from Britain who contacted me, and they said that I have a video discussion group about aromanticism, so you're welcome to join. And I was so nervous, because not only we're going to talk English, but I also, because I've always had this strong respect for queer people, and I was thinking that this is the best way to know if this is real or not, to sit face to face with queer people from other parts of the world. And I knew that I was going to feel if I belonged there or not. The thing was that they didn't need to say something special, and I didn't say much either the first time. It was just the feeling of recognition that I belong there. We were talking about relationships, intimacy, attraction, romance, and what it means, and norms in society. And I actually could relate to what they were saying. That was also a very strong experience.
Then she felt a strong urge to also connect with other asexual and aromantic people in Sweden.
I had this strong need of talking to people, because I was in an identity crisis. I had a lot of questions, I had a lot of worries. I also know that because I've never talked to anyone about sexuality or the way I have been feeling, I just had this strong need for connection with people and to talk to people about this. And I thought to myself, what if I could start a book circle? Maybe a couple persons would like to talk about these books with me. So I wrote a message on the Facebook groups, and I made a Discord server, and I invited people to come and read books with me if you want to. I had no idea that so many people would come into the server with the need for telling their stories and connect with others and to talk. So the spring and the early summer we had book club meetings every week, talking about these books, talking about sexual attraction, romantic attraction, relationships and struggling with the feeling of not being represented and feeling invisible, and we had a lot of deep conversations. And I realized that there are a lot of other people who have never been able to talk about their sexuality or romantic orientation or lack thereof, and there is such a strong need for community and to feel that you are not alone.
And during that spring, she also decided to come out.
I just knew that now when I know this about myself, I want to be open about that. But of course I also learned that these are identities that not a lot of people know much about. So of course I realized that I needed to do a lot of explaining and information. It feels important for more people to know about asexuality and aromanticism, not only because people can become allies and be understanding and so on, but also because it should be easier for people to know about this so they don't have to spend so many years thinking that they are broken or there's something wrong with them, that they can understand that they are valid just the way they are.
And this past summer, Elin has also walked in her first Pride parades.
That was something I never thought I would do. Of course as an ally, but now I was walking for myself. And I just want to quote from the Ace activist Jasmine Benoit about Pride. She says like this: "To me, Pride is not an exclusive occasion. It's a state of mind, a state of embracing and celebrating the parts of yourself that society has taught you to feel ashamed of."
And she has walked proudly in the parades, waving these flags that she loves.
For me, these flags mean so much. Asexual flag is really a flag of pride and strength. And it's also a flag of healing for me, the opportunity to turn to myself, to my sexuality, and ask for forgiveness. The way I treated myself, felt ashamed of myself. Now I can turn to myself and say, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be proud of you. Therefore, this flag is also a flag of reconciliation and self-care and self-love. And all the time when I walk with my flag, I feel a little bit stronger every time. And I feel the healing process inside of me. It's also a flag of strength, and it's a shield, because the thing is that I can tell people now that I'm asexual. And no matter what, if they have prejudice and they don't know what asexuality is, or if they have a judging attitude, I just don't care anymore, because I know myself what it's all about.
And sadly, she has many examples of prejudice and thoughtless comments that she's received.
This summer I was walking with my ace flag in a Pride event, and I heard a person behind my back, and they said, "Is that really something to be proud of?" And I don't know that person, I don't care about that person, but I felt the strength inside of me, because I was just holding my flag higher up. And I knew that no matter what other people say, I know that. And I want the world to know that being asexual is something really to be proud of.
The aromantic flag also means a lot to her.
Because knowing that I'm aromantic is something that made everything fall into place. It made me understand everything. It made me also understand my asexuality better. And for me, the aromantic flag is a flag of joy and a flag of freedom. The freedom to be myself. Being free from all the pressure of the norms in society, telling you that you have to be some kind of way and you have to feel a certain kind of way. When I see my aromantic flag, I get reminded of the feeling of joy and relief that I would like to call arophoria, aromantic euphoria. I remember when I had read about aromantic and I was taking a lot of long walks, listening to loud music, having a lot of thoughts buzzing in my head. What will this mean for my future? How can I do this? How can I come out as a queer identity in this part of my life? What will people say? What will people think? And the most important thing, what will this mean for my future? Will I be able to find supportive relationships? Will I be cared for? A lot of things were in my mind. But then I just got overwhelmed with this strong feeling of relief. I started to run because I was so happy, thinking that no matter what the future holds, I am free. I don't have to be someone that I'm not. I get to be myself. That is what I want like to call arophoria.
She also wants to say something about the lack of knowledge and invisibility of aromanticism.
Aromanticism is a very invisible identity, and I would like for more people to know about it. I know that there are a lot of aromantic people who feel that even though they have a different sexual orientation, their identity as aromantic is the most important thing, and that's also true for me. But aromantic always get forgotten. People talk about the letter A, they only mention asexuality. When I walk at the pride events, explaining my flags, when I talk about that aromantic is not experience any romantic attraction, I see people's faces that they are so confused and they don't understand anything about it. So I would like for it to be more visible, that people will talk about it and know about it, because the norms about romantic love is such a strong norm in society. So it can also be very tough to be aromantic. You can struggle a lot, you can feel alone, you can feel invisible. But then I would like to say something to other aromantic people. I remember another time when I was out walking after knowing that I'm aromantic. I was feeling a lot of struggling inside of me, a lot of doubts, and I was very worried. And because I'm a person of faith, I was also praying. What will this mean? Please help me understand this, and what will the future bring? And the area where I live is used to be a lake in old times, but in the end of the 19th century they drained the lake, so the soil is almost completely black, and there are fields, so the horizon is kind of stripy. All of a sudden I just stopped and I looked at the horizon and I saw it's exactly the aromantic flag. And then I also knew that it's going to be okay.
And this is also the message that she wants to end this video on.
This is something that I would like to say to other aromantic people. You might feel forgotten. You might feel worried about your future, about relationships, about finding love in a way that works for you. It can feel hopeless, but you are not alone and you are not forgotten. And I hope when you take your walks in nature, you can feel encouraged to see that there are our colors in the horizon.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time!